Two children, ages 6 and 4, vanished from their home in broad daylight. No witnesses, no signs of struggle, and no trace left behind. Their shoes were still inside, their toys untouched, and yet Lily and Jack Sullivan were simply gone. As days turned to weeks, their mother's story began to shift, and the police uncovered disturbing clues hidden in the silence. What really happened that morning in the woods of Nova Scotia? Pictou County, Nova Scotia. Tucked deep in Canada's quiet wooded countryside, far from city noise or neighborhood watch, lies a rural home surrounded by dense brush and steep, unforgiving terrain. It was here, in this peaceful isolation, that 6-year-old Lily Mae Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother, Jack William James Sullivan, were being raised by their young mother and her partner. Lily was a vibrant, giggly little girl with wide brown eyes and an endless curiosity for everything outdoors. She loved pink dresses, her little backpack, and picking flowers in the backyard. Jack, a baby brother by 2 years, followed her everywhere, quieter, a little shy, but always watching his big sister with admiration. They lived with their mother, Malaya Brooks Murray, and stepfather, Daniel Martel, in a modest home along Gairloch Road. Isolated, surrounded by trees, their backyard faded into deep woods without fences. Their front yard sat just steps from the road, but a road barely travelled by anyone other than neighbours and logging trucks. They had a 16-month-old sibling as well, still in diapers. The home was chaotic, cramped, but to Lily and Jack, it was home. It was a Friday morning, May 2, 2025. What happened between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. that day remains one of the most baffling missing persons cases in Canadian history. Daniel Martel would later tell police that both children were inside their bedroom that morning. He said he saw Lily enter and exit the kitchen, walking in and out calmly. Then she disappeared back into the room. Some time later, he heard Jack's voice, also coming from the kitchen area. But that was it. By the time Malaya came out, neither child was there. Martel claimed he started searching immediately, calling out for the kids, looking around the house, outside, but there was no sign of either child, no footsteps, no screaming, no toys missing, just nothing. It wasn't until 10 a.m. that someone in the home, police have not confirmed whether it was the mother or stepfather, dialed 980. The RCMP arrived shortly after that morning call. They found Malaya and Daniel in a state of panic, reportedly shaken, but not hysterical. Officers began canvassing the area, interviewing family and bringing in initial search teams. At that point, the case was being treated as a possible child wandering situation, not an abduction. There were no signs of a break-in. The doors were unlocked. A sliding glass door at the back of the home, known to be silent when opened, was seen as a possible exit point. Neither Lily nor Jack had been wearing outdoor shoes. It was cold that morning. No jackets were missing. No snacks were packed. Not even a stuffed animal. 2 small children had somehow walked out into the woods with no supplies, no warning, and no witness. As RCMP officers expanded their search, the clock started ticking. If you care about real stories like this, the stories that need to be heard, that deserve justice, please consider subscribing to this channel. Your support helps bring awareness to these cases and may help bring children like Lily and Jack home. Hit the like button, subscribe, and let us know in the comments, what would you do if 2 children vanished from your family without a trace? Now, let's keep going. Within hours of the 911 call, police had organized one of the largest search operations in Nova Scotia's recent history. Drones were flown overhead. RCMP brought in dogs, ATVs, thermal imaging, and helicopters. Search teams, both officers and volunteers, combed through dense brush, steep embankments, and frigid creek beds. The search zone quickly expanded from the family's backyard to over 8 square kilometers of land. And yet, no trace of the children. Not a sock, not a snack wrapper, not a single footprint linked directly to either child. A boot print was discovered near the back of the house, but police would not say whether it matched the children or someone else. Police began collecting surveillance footage from neighbours, passing trucks, and businesses in nearby New Glasgow. They focused on the days leading up to the disappearance, especially April 28th through May 2nd. They hoped for any glimpse of the children or a suspicious vehicle. What they found shocked them. Surveillance confirmed that Lily and Jack were last seen in public on May 1st, the day before they vanished. The footage shows the family together in New Glasgow, appearing normal. Lily was wearing a pink outfit, Jack was near his mother, no signs of distress, no altercations, no one following them. So what changed overnight? They didn't vanish into thin air. Two children, ages 6 and 4, no shoes, no jackets, no trail, but after days of exhaustive searching, not a single clue could explain how Lily and Jack Sullivan slipped into the vast wilderness, or if they ever walked out of that house at all. The first day after Lily and Jack were reported missing was frantic. Over 100 trained searchers, RCMP officers, K9 units, aerial teams and local volunteers scoured the woods surrounding the home on Gairloch Road. The terrain was treacherous, especially for children. Thick trees, brush, sharp elevation drops, cold creeks and old wells. The conditions made it almost impossible for even a single adult to go far unnoticed. The idea that two barefoot children could walk off silently and leave zero physical evidence was growing less and less likely. By that evening, the RCMP began shifting their tone. They were no longer treating this like a simple search and rescue. They suspected foul play. From the beginning, the children's mother, Malia Brooks Murray, and her partner, Daniel Martell, were closely monitored by police. At first, Malia made several Facebook posts, pleading for help and asking people to check their land. But something in her behavior started to bother people, both online and within the RCMP. Locals noted that her tone felt detached. Her posts lacked the raw emotion one might expect from a mother whose two children had vanished. On the ground, officers observed discrepancies in the couple's accounts. Stories of the morning timeline didn't always align. When did Lily last leave the room? Was Jack seen before or after? Who was watching the kids? The RCMP did not publicly name Malia or Daniel as suspects, but they did restrict their movements, warning them not to leave the area. They were both interviewed multiple times over several days. At least one search warrant was executed at the family home. And then came a strange twist. Just 4 days after Lily and Jack disappeared, on May 6, 2025, the family's home caught fire. The blaze broke out in the afternoon, gutting part of the small rural house. Officials say the cause appeared suspicious. RCMP released an updated statement saying they had no evidence the children ever left the property on foot. They expanded searches beyond the wooded area, focusing on creeks, culverts, and even possible burial locations. Police began calling the case a suspicious disappearance. They brought in specialized search and rescue teams from across Nova Scotia, along with cadaver dogs trained to locate decomposing remains. Local landowners were asked to search their properties. Hundreds did. The community was beginning to fear the worst, that Lily and Jack were no longer alive. But there was still no confirmation, no physical proof, no bodies, no signs of struggle, just a silence growing louder every day. RCMP also began looking into the digital behavior of both Malia and Daniel. Investigators reportedly seized devices and combed through text messages, social media history, app data, and location pings. Although the results of those searches have not been made public, there were 2 things they found that raised eyebrows. Deleted messages around the time of the children's disappearance, a lack of 901 calls or public panic until nearly 2 hours after the kids were last seen. In addition, neighbors stated that they had not seen the children outside in the days before they went missing. One neighbor, interviewed anonymously, said she hadn't heard the kids playing outside for at least a week. This led to an even darker theory. Had something happened to the children before May 2? Public records, later surfaced by journalists, indicated that Child Protective Services had been involved with the family in the past. There were prior concerns about neglect, living conditions, and drug use. Police have not confirmed the status of any previous investigations. However, these revelations only added to public concern and suspicion. People began asking, why were these children still in that home? And if the parents knew more than they were saying, why weren't they talking? By mid-May, both Malia and Daniel had stopped communicating publicly. Their Facebook accounts went private, no press statements, no interviews. They had lawyered up. The RCMP have not charged them with any crime. As of July 2025, they remain persons of interest, but not officially suspects. Still, the court of public opinion was taking a different stance. True crime followers, locals and family members began demanding answers. If the kids walked off, where did they go? If someone took them, how, without a trace? And if it was an inside job, why isn't someone in handcuffs? Two children don't just disappear, not without someone knowing something. The days stretched into weeks. The forest stayed silent, and behind every press conference, every unanswered question, was a truth the RCMP seemed certain of. This wasn't an accident, this was a crime. By the second week of May 2025, RCMP investigators took a more direct and chilling tone. They stood before cameras at a press conference and, for the first time, said what many had feared. At this time, there is no evidence to support that Lily and Jack Sullivan simply walked off on their own. We are treating this as a criminal investigation. With those words, the search and rescue phase became a criminal probe. But they still didn't name suspects. They still didn't have bodies. And they still hadn't answered the one question haunting Nova Scotia. Where were Lily and Jack? RCMP teams had mapped every known inch of the forested area around the family home. Dogs were brought in from across the province. Aerial drones, infrared sensors, and even ground-penetrating radar were used in nearby fields and wooded lots. But not a single item of the children's clothing had been found. Not a blanket, not a toy, not even a footprint. The children had allegedly gone missing in broad daylight, just steps from their home. But the woods told a different story, a silent one. Investigators began to believe something far more calculated had occurred, that the children had never left the property alive. In an effort to gather new leads, RCMP released updated photos of Lily and Jack. Images showed the children smiling, happy, Lily with long blonde hair and a gap-toothed grin. Jack, just 4, had a shy smile and bright blue eyes. But the public tips that followed led nowhere. There were no sightings, no confirmed reports. Every lead ended in disappointment and heartbreak. There was no Amber Alert ever issued, because police initially believed the children hadn't been abducted. But by now, that position had shifted. In private, RCMP were considering the case a suspected double homicide. Still, without proof, they could not act. The children's extended family, including aunts, grandparents and cousins, began speaking out in media interviews. One maternal aunt, who asked to remain unnamed, told a local reporter, "They didn't run off. Something happened in that house, and someone is hiding something. Those babies deserve justice." Family members revealed that there had been tension and distance between them and the mother Malelia in the weeks prior to the disappearance. Some even claimed they hadn't seen the kids for several weeks, despite living nearby. One relative suggested the children may have been kept out of public view, a claim that only intensified the rumors online. But again, these were accusations, not evidence. Meanwhile, custody documents were filed in court by members of the family seeking temporary guardianship of any other children related to Malia and Daniel. The judge granted partial emergency supervision, citing the unresolved nature of the criminal case. RCMP confirmed that no arrests had been made, but also stated that several individuals remain under active investigation. This included both Malia Brooks-Murray and Daniel Martel, who had retained separate legal counsel and refused further interviews. They had not spoken publicly since May 6th, the day of the house fire. Behind closed doors, a grand jury warrant was reportedly issued to obtain electronic records, cloud data and financial transactions. But as of July 18, 2025, no one has been charged with murder, and the bodies of Lily and Jack have not been recovered. Let's pause for a moment and walk through the key moments. May 2nd, Lily and Jack reportedly vanish from their rural home. May 2nd to 5, massive ground searches turn up no signs. May 6th, the family home catches fire, police suspect arson. May 10, RCMP shift tone, call the case criminal. May 15 to June, devices, records, and homes are searched. June-July, no charges filed, no confirmed evidence found. And that brings us to today, nearly 3 months since 2 children vanished without a trace in Nova Scotia. Before we continue to the final part of this story, I want to take a moment to ask you, the viewer, if you believe these stories matter, if you believe children like Lily and Jack deserve justice, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Your support helps us bring awareness to unsolved and developing cases, and it means more than you know. And if you're watching from Canada or Nova Scotia, share this story. Someone out there might hold the missing piece. Privately, sources close to the investigation have said police believe one or both parents were involved in the children's deaths or concealment. RCMP are reportedly waiting for key forensic evidence to be processed, including materials recovered from the burnt remains of the home. Until those lab results come in, and unless someone talks, the case cannot move forward. The investigation remains active and ongoing, but for Lily and Jack, time is running out. RCMP fire investigators determined the blaze began in the basement, near the laundry room, where accelerants were found. Their conclusion? Intentional ignition. The home was declared a crime scene, and all salvageable materials were collected and sent to forensic labs. Burnt fabric, fragments of clothing, bone samples, anything that could offer answers. But no human remains have been publicly confirmed as recovered. The RCMP has remained extremely tight-lipped about what, if anything, was discovered in the rubble. Behind the scenes, authorities are building a case based on circumstantial evidence, digital records, and physical clues from the fire. But the longer it takes, the harder it becomes to act. Investigators have not officially revealed any theory, but from the clues gathered and the mounting pressure from the public, one narrative has begun to form, quietly, within police circles. That Lily and Jack never went missing at all. That by the time police were called on May 2nd, both children may have already been deceased. That their deaths, whether intentional or the result of neglect, were covered up. And that the house fire was the final act, a desperate attempt to erase all traces of what had really happened inside that home. This theory is supported by key points. No trace of the children anywhere, despite massive ground and aerial searches, conflicting witness reports about the last time the kids were seen, the suspicious fire days later, no public signs of grief or pleas from the mother and her partner, and a complete lack of cooperation from those closest to the children. Still, theory is not fact, and police cannot charge someone based on suspicion alone. We may never fully understand what would drive someone to harm their own children, but there are reports, unconfirmed, that Child Protective Services had visited the home months earlier. Some community members claim the children were rarely seen outdoors in recent weeks, and others have described the couple as paranoid, detached, and increasingly isolated. Was there abuse, neglect, mental illness, or something darker? No one knows for sure, or no one is talking. In early July 2025, nearly 2 months after Lily and Jack vanished, the town of Mount Uniacke held a candlelight vigil. Neighbors, classmates, teachers, and total strangers stood in the field behind the destroyed house, holding up glow sticks and photographs. Lily's third-grade teacher spoke through tears. She was kind. She once gave away her snack to a classmate who forgot theirs. She loved unicorns, and she said she wanted to be a veterinarian. Jack's preschool aide recalled how he used to line up his crayons in perfect rows before starting to draw. He was quiet, gentle. His world was small and safe, until it wasn't. A wooden cross now stands near the scorched grass, surrounded by stuffed animals and notes that read, "Come home, babies. We haven't forgotten. We're still looking." As of today, no one has been arrested, no bodies have been found, no suspects have been publicly named. The case remains under active investigation. Police ask that anyone with information call their anonymous tip line. Even something as small as a photo from that weekend, a strange noise or a social media post, could be the missing puzzle piece, but the silence grows deeper, and with each passing day, hope becomes harder to hold on to. What happened to Lily and Jack Sullivan? It's a question that cuts deep, because behind the headlines and the press conferences were 2 innocent children. Children who didn't get to finish school, who didn't get a summer break, who didn't get to grow up. If they're gone, they deserve to be found. If they were taken, someone knows. And if justice is still possible, we have to keep looking. Because children don't disappear without a trace. Someone always knows something. And if no one speaks, then the silence becomes complicit. If you've made it this far, thank you. These stories are never easy to tell or to hear, but Lily and Jack matter. Their story matters. And even without a resolution, we owe them this, to remember, to ask questions, and to demand answers. If you believe in justice for children and want to see more cases like this brought to light, please subscribe to the channel and share this video. And tell me in the comments, what do you believe happened to Lily and Jack Sullivan? Do you think justice will ever come? Or has the truth already been buried? I'll be reading every comment, and I hope, just like you, that one day we'll be able to share an update not just about the investigation, but about justice finally served. Until then, Stay safe, stay aware, and don't forget them.